Revenue share row continues. Senators have failed to unlock the revenue sharing formula stalemate for a record 7th time. Senators voted to adjourn debate on the revenue sharing formula to next week to allow senators reach a consensus. Tonight we tell you why this latest postponement is making the Senate an indecisive house. Failed Senate leadership. The Senate leadership is on the spot tonight over the protracted disagreement on the revenue sharing formula.
We are just moving forth and backwards. Really, we are going to look ridiculous. We must move forward.
Senate Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio and Majority Whip Irungu Kangata, two newbies, are having it rough as members tiptoe on party lines. The details here tonight. Plus, Njoro truce. Semblance of peace at last in Njoro, Nakuru County as leaders call for a truce between warring communities. At least 5 people have died in renewed clashes there. We have the details on the fate of more than 3,000 displaced residents. Good evening. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Faith Cheptile is our sign language interpreter tonight of all nights. Let's begin with our top story. Now, the Senate adjourned its sittings for the 7th time after a motion by Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen was moved in a motion to have the sitting adjourned until a consensus is found, which senators voted 34 against 26. The Senate will have a sitting next week on Tuesday to discuss various amendments, including Senator Sakaja's amendment. Our parliamentary affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuku begins our broadcast tonight.
The whole country is watching us and has been watching us for this is the 7th time. We are just moving backwards. Really, we are going to look ridiculous. We must move forward.
Despite of the calls by the Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka to debate on the revenue sharing formula, senators have yet again failed to reach a consensus, adjourning the sitting for the 7th time. An adjournment motion tabled by Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen was supported by 34 senators against 26.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot close our eyes on the fact that if you look at the map, and Senator Orengo captured it very well last week, I wish we listened to Senator Orengo. And Mr. Speaker, because if you look at the map of the losers, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that there is a big, huge red map of a greater land mass of this country, Mr. Speaker, who are losing. And then there are dots in green in a particular corner that are gaining. And then, Mr. Speaker, we have the confidence to tell the people of Kenya, Kenya is about population. But the definition of a country, it's its people and its territory, Mr. Speaker.
I was very shocked when I saw a big banner on a highway which is targeting my colleague, Senator Sakaja. These are things which are out there. I know the majority leader has asked me to substantiate, and I shall. When I came into this house, I met the distinguished senator in his office. Very few people know that he must have spent part of his night in this bunge so that he can be able to be safe.
The Senate leadership is expected to have consultation meetings with senators within the week ahead of another sitting on Tuesday next week.
And Mr. Speaker, that's why, in fact, the last time when I was moving on a point of order to defer debate, my point was that taking a vote on the question of resources is always a very difficult question. But it is better for us to talk and achieve consensus. I emphasized the word consensus the last time, rather than a situation where we are creating gainers and losers.
Yesterday we had a meeting. Speaker, you were present. And in that meeting, we agreed on a framework for counties getting the balance of their payments, which is 29 billion. I was a little disappointed, Mr. Speaker, and I must say it in the floor, that we appeared disjointed as a Senate on counties getting funds as we continue to discuss this matter. While the Supreme Court has already pronounced itself that counties can get resources in the advisory opinion number 3 of 2019.
The adjournment was to allow senators to look into the proposals tabled before the House. Among the amendments is one by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, who wants the second generation formula used for the county allocation, but any additional amounts to be shared using the third generation formula, a stand which has caused him problems, now claiming that his life is in danger.
And now let me not even talk about the other incident. Yesterday, there were reports of my impending arrest, so that I'm not here today. Madam Speaker, I heard that members in this House know. Some of you know it. Some of you are discussing it. Madam Speaker, I didn't even stay at my own home. I was in this Senate at 5:30 a.m. today. I sat in my car in the basement until midday. That is not a laughing matter, Senator Cherege.
Wengi wamewahi wabunge ambao wamekuwa wamekamilika wakakamavu kwa siasa wamepoteza maisha yao ndani ya kichaka kile cha kule Ngong Forest. Hatutaki kuona msemo kama huo ukisemwa ama ukitokea hivi sasa. Sakaja ni kijana mdogo sana. Ako na familia yake bado iko ndogo. Sitaki kuamka kesho asubuhi nisome kwamba Sakaja amepoteza maisha yake huko Ngong Forest.
Senate is expected to hold another sitting next week on Tuesday. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
Now, as the Senate failed to pass the revenue sharing formula for the 7th time today, all eyes were set on the House leadership role in the fate of the formula. For the umpteenth time, senators from Jubilee and ODM defied the calls to support the one-man, one-shilling bill from their party leaders. And as David Mudhoka now reports, could the current stalemate in the Senate be a reflection of Majority Leader and Majority Whip dismal performance?
Barely 3 months since West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisio and his Murang'a counterpart Irungu Kang'ata took over the reins as Senate Majority Leader and Minority Whip respectively, their leadership seems to be heading for the rocks. And as the Senate for the 7th time failed to pass recommendations on the third basis on revenue, also known as the one-man, one-vote, one-shilling bill into law, Senators Pogisio and Kang'ata have been put on the spot. Senators say the two have lost their grip even as cracks in the Senate widen.
Uongozi wa upande ule wa walio wengi ukiongozwa na ndugu yangu Pogisio ni ukweli kabisa kwamba umefeli mtihani. Hauwezi hiyo kazi. Kang'ata hawezi kuconvince hata senator mmoja kwa ile upande wake wa walio wengi kurudi pande kwenda pande yote.
I urge Senator Pogisio to sit on his seat as a majority leader and lead us together with Senator Orengo.
Let us unite this country, let us not divide it, because when we divide, we'll go down in history as a house which was controlled by a remote control outside.
Now senators want Kang'ata, Pogisio and Minority Leader James Orengo to crack the whip and resolve the revenue sharing deadlock with haste. Jubilee Party Leader President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM Leader Raila Odinga had put Pogisio and Kang'ata to task in ensuring that senators pass the third revenue sharing formula into law. The duo has seemingly failed to deliver on its mandate so far.
We're playing in the hands of those who don't want this Senate to do its job and succeed. Let's focus on what we are here to do. Keep your eyes on the ball and don't be distracted.
Clearly from what we are saying, the need to caucus is very, very key. Probably wouldn't have been in this situation if we had caucused more at different levels. So I think even as we adjourn, it's important for us to do that.
Now trouble seems to be brewing in the Jubilee Party paradise after some of its members, led by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, opposed the third generation formula in utter defiance of their alleged party position.
I urge my colleague also to remember we had a parliamentary group of Jubilee Party where we called each and every person. Several members of Jubilee Party, including several who don't support the position of the party, attended. I want to remind Dr. Ali attended. He opposed the party position. Deputy majority leader attended Dulo. You did not attend that meeting. You refused to attend the parliamentary group meeting. Yeah, it's a fact. So therefore, do not come to mislead the House.
We know exactly what we want, but we never seem to agree. And so, Speaker, I just want us to agree that this time, with the moments given, this short time given to us, I hope, Mr. Speaker, that we don't come back to ask again Kenyans for another postponement. We have had these moments before. And, Mr. Speaker, that's why we wanted to move ahead today.
The Jubilee Party has since warned senators who do not toe the line, saying they risk disciplinary action. David Muthoka, TV47, Nairobi.
Still on matters counties, the county revenue formula remains protracted impasses, with the senators adjourning the sitting to next week. The third generation formula has left counties in crisis. And for this tussle to end, the senators must agree for the Treasury to release the money. Josh Onsare with the details.
After the Senate failed for the 7th time to agree on the disputed formula for the county revenue allocation, this means the counties will continue to stare at a financial crisis. But for how long? The Treasury has insisted that it will release the funds once the Senate agrees on the allocation formula. The special meeting on Monday between the Treasury, Senate leadership, the Control of Budget and the Council of Governors failed to yield the way forward for the county allocation.
Yesterday we had a meeting. Speaker, you were present. And in that meeting, we agreed on a framework for counties getting the balance of their payments, which is 29 billion. I was a little disappointed, Mr. Speaker, and I must say it in the floor, that we appeared disjointed as a Senate on counties getting funds as we continue to discuss this matter.
As the tussle in the Senate continues, counties suffer more as public services stall. According to the Supreme Court ruling, the senators can agree to allow counties receive 50% of their share as they discuss the disputed allocation criteria.
I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to get the leadership to agree, even if all of us have to sign, that we concur with the advisory opinion on the Supreme Court, that meanwhile, counties must get their resources, which is up to 50%, as the advisory opinion, which is a judgment of the Supreme Court.
However, some senators have proposed amendment to the Public Finance Management Act so that counties receive money in times of a stalemate on the revenue share model. Josh Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Josh Onsare. Now to matters COVID-19, and the number of COVID-19 infections in Kiambu County has been on the rise, with the county now being ranked at the second position after Nairobi in terms of infections. This as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country rose to 23,202 cases after 605 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours.
Ever since cessation of movement into and out of Nairobi Metropolitan was lifted on the 6th of July, Kiambu County has continued to record a high number of COVID-19 infections, the county now being ranked as the second county in number of infections after Nairobi County. Is it that the county is experiencing a spillover of infections from Nairobi County due to its proximity to the capital city? Or is it due to the carelessness of Kiambu residents in following the COVID-19 set guidelines? Just today, Kiambu County recorded a total of 25 cases. This is as Kiambu Governor James Nyoro disputes concerns that the county is at a high risk day by day with a rising number of infections. According to Nyoro, a huge number of patients in the county have recovered, with more continuing to respond positively to treatment. Nyoro further says most of the cases reported from Kiambu County are not necessarily from people living in the county, but people in other counties who originate from Kiambu County.
The cases that you are seeing are not necessarily tested here in Kiambu. Some of the figures in Kiambu were tested in Ruiru, in Nairobi, or in Mombasa, or in Arupe, or in other places, because in that form, you fill in your county of origin. So if you are in Mombasa and you are tested and you come from Kiambu, it's counted as a Kiambu case.
The number of COVID-19 infections in the country rises to 23,202 cases after 605 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours.
Nairobi, 373, Kiambu, 35, Migori, 25, Busia 20, Narok 20, Kajiado 16, Laikipia 16, Nakuru 15, Kakamega 12, Uasin Gishu 11, Machakos 10, Mombasa 9, Samburu 8, Turkana 7, Muranga 5, Kericho 5, Taita Taveta 3, Nyeri, Makueni, Kisumu, Kilifi, Elgeyo Marakwet 2 each, Siaya, Meru, Kitui, Isiolo, and Bungoma 1 each.
587 people have recovered after receiving treatment from various hospitals across the country, as 6 more people succumbed to the virus. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Thank you, Zainab Mohammed, for that report. Elsewhere, residents of clash-hit areas in Njoro have called on the government to survey the area afresh and award title deeds to residents as one way to put an end to the clashes. This even as leaders call for a truce in the area as peace efforts are escalated. Narok Lorraine with the details.
In the recent clashes witnessed in Njoro, the lack of title deeds has given some residents the opportunity to claim land illegally, despite living together for a while, displacing thousands who have nowhere to go.
Inatakikana hii watu wapatiwe title. Kila mtu apewe title.
While calling for a permanent ceasefire between the two communities, Njoro MP Charity Kathambi urged the government to remove the current land caution in force. She wants the locals given title deeds, blaming the Ministry of Environment of playing part in the current clashes through forceful evictions.
Kuna kitu inaitwa public participation ambayo imekuwa ignored na Ministry of Environment. Kitu ya pili, hata ukikuja kutafuta cutline kwa hiyo mahindi, ukiwa na macho yako uwezi ukaiona. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta kwanza atuondolee hiyo kiwa number 1. Tunaomba caveat itolewe. Wote wapewe title deeds bwana RC.
On his part, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea noted that there was no profit in war, adding that no development can be made amid war. He warned that anyone inciting locals will be dealt with in accordance with the law.
Ukikuwa na amani, ndio hawa viongozi wanapata nafasi ya kuleta maendeleo. Lakini nyinyi sio mko na starehe gani hii paka mnakosa kazi ya kufanya, inakuwa kazi ni kupigana.
At least 5 people have been killed and 3,000 others displaced in the recent spurt of clashes in Njoro. Some 14 people are in remand as police complete investigations on the ethnic violence. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
All right, you're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. 18 minutes past 9 p.m. Time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. Don't go too far. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi. Thank you for, as always, choosing to stay with us. Let's get to some sad international news now. Failed to agree or agreed to fail again on matters, the revenue sharing formula. And to react to that and make sense of that, let's bring in our guest tonight, who is the nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, who joins us. Good evening, Senator. Thank you for making time for us tonight here on TV47.
Good evening, Abdi.
Will it be fair to say that the Senate, Kenya's upper house, the house in which you are a member of tonight, is indecisive? Will that be a harsh indictment?
I think there is a possibility of saying such kind of comments, because if people have met for 7 times and they've not made their decision, then you can say so, because people are fearing to cross the Rubicon. Today, I didn't get an opportunity to express myself because of the manner in which some people felt entitled to the floor of the House, and I think that is something we must discuss. I think I made my comments very well known. But generally, it is not fair for this country, for us as senators, to continue dithering on such an important matter as to occasion the freezing of activities, economic activities, the governmental running of 47 counties.
And Senator, just for the purposes of the context of this discussion, what is so difficult not to reach a consensus 7 times after sitting?
Just before you cut me short. So I was saying that, even just the whole idea that we as senators, we are supposed to be on recess. We are supposed to be doing other things. And yet here now we have to keep on being called to make a decision, something that actually is not even good for us. Now, the issue here is the politics around it. It's actually the issue of populous counties versus the less populous counties. It's about politics of 2022. It's about individual senators and whether their counties will gain more money or are already losing because of the current formula. That is what is obtaining.
How is this intertwined with the politics of 2022? You make mention of it in your response.
Yes, because by the end of the day, if, for example, you are elected as a senator, your roles are 2. First is to make sure that your county gets money or resources, and then the second one is to oversight that county. So when it is in your tenure that then you lost money, then that of course means that you did not do your job effectively. On the same time, there is an issue of presidential elections, and people are looking at counties and saying, did you stand with us when we needed you for this and that? But at the same time also, there is an issue of marginalization. What kind of marginalization is there? There is what we call historical marginalization, like the countries from Northern Kenya. But there's the new form of marginalization where you have a county like Kiambu with 2.4 million people getting 9 billion, and the counties of Wajir, Mandera, and Garissa getting 25 billion with a similar population. Mm-hmm. That is a conversation that is happening now in the country.
While moving the motion, Kipchumba Murkomen, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator said, and I quote, "This is to quote again, give dialogue one more chance." Given that there were chances and that dialogue seemingly did not bear fruition, what guarantee is there now that this dialogue, this adjournment will bear fruit?
I think it is true to say that even if people met 100 times, they will not make a decision because you cannot keep on kicking the can down the road. Mm-hmm. There is need to have leadership and also innovativeness, because the fact that we have 3 or 4 proposals in the order paper of what should be a solution, and yet we've not agreed to one, is really an indictment on the part of the Senate. And why am I saying so? The Sakaja proposal is neither here or there, because it says that you retain 316 and then anything extra, use the new formula. If for the new formula to take effect, you need 633 billion. Mm-hmm. That's on one side. On the other hand, there's a proposal of varying, the new formula so that it is actually graduated, mm-hmm. And then you isolate about 12.4 billion, which then becomes a problem. And then there are other permutations and simulations that you can talk about, like the one for Ledama or Lekina, which is neither here or there. So basically,
Senator, you say the Sakaja amendment is not here nor there. The amendment proposes that no county will lose any shilling. The amendment proposes as well that the same financial figures and percentages used last year should be used. This will be a smile for everyone. No one will be losing anything at all, according to his amendment.
That is a nirvana that has not existed. And Sakaja's amendment should be dismissed with the contempt it deserves.
Why?
Because it freezes the population of Kenya to 2009. And you know very well the 2009 census also was faulty because some counties inflated their numbers. And that's why you saw the 2019 census reducing. Like, for example, the case of Mandera, the population reduced by 15%, which is a misnomer. So you cannot have a new data, a new poverty indices, and margins, and then you want to freeze that. And I know it doesn't even help because Sakaja's county, Nairobi in itself, was gaining, but he's trying to hold the country at ransom. And there is no way in our lifetime, Mabdi, where we will have counties being devolved 633 billion. Even when we go the BBI way, which proposes that 35% of the money be reserved for counties, you will be doing around 560 billion. And that is even a tall order, Abdi, because of our debt stock and our debt obligations.
Senator, if the hue and cry around this formula is the essence of counties losing and some winning, if what Sakaja is proposing is that no county loses, one will assume this will be a good basis to start this discussion.
Not necessarily. The solution would be, in a budget of 2.7 trillion, you give more money to counties. And that is something that we had tried to work out on as senators, mm-hmm. but the governors backed out on us. If update today, the counties got about 350 billion out of a 2.7 trillion budget, mm-hmm. then you would resolve the issue. For example, how do you explain procurement of PPE single sourcing? I think I saw some girl called Mignot was the one who was given that, of a new company. If that money were given to counties, we would have resolved half the problem. Imagine we had 7 billion extra. Mm-hmm. But you know the grandstanding that happened between the Senate and the National Assembly, but more so when the governors backed out on us, made sure that we didn't get enough resources based on a cogent formula. And let me take you through so that you understand. Mm-hmm. How you come up with the division of revenue, the vertical sharing, is when you use the previous allocation as a base, and then you have the cost of inflation, which is now a 3-year average of 6.9%. And then you also increase in services, demand for services. And our figures were giving us, by the time we were arriving at a consensus of 332 billion, we moved up to 327. It would have resolved. These are the amounts of money that are being misappropriated using COVID-19 pandemic because of those disasterpreneurs. So we are also having a problem of the national government not wanting to give what counties are asking for, and also politics of brinkmanship, people trying to show I'm a better leader. So Kipchumba Murkomen would want, for example, to show that he would be a better majority leader than Pogisho, for example. So people are settling political scores and at the expense of Kenyans.
All right, Senator, I also want us to talk about the Equalization Fund, but I understand we quickly need to take a short break here on the show. We'll be back with this discussion after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi. We are making sense of the formula that has caused a trouble as far as the Senate disagreeing is concerned. Of course, before we went for a break, we were talking to nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, who also joins us now again on the broadcast. Senator, the depiction in the public limelight is there are counties that are losing, there are counties that are gaining. If we are to talk of that language of gainers versus losers, this will split the country in the divide.
Yeah, really, by the end of the day, if we want to share money equally, we will share money equally and everybody will be happy. But is that going to resolve the issue? No. You need at least a minimum of 2.7 billion to successfully run a county despite the number of people. Because then you have a county assembly, you have a county executive, and they are the basic services that you need to do. Now, the question that then we ask ourselves, though, then people debate with regards to the territory, they debate with regards to the population. Then what happens, therefore, when you have to deal with the issue of infrastructure or development? Because basically, if you look at Chapter 4, Schedule 4, of the Constitution, you will realize that counties are about people, they're about service delivery. But then we've not taken full advantage of the article on equalization fund. So that then
which is something, Senator, we'll come to the equalization fund a little bit later in this discussion. At the heart of the very philosophy of 1 shilling, 1 man, 1 vote is the question of population. Isn't that not foregoing the historical glaring facts of regions of this country that have been neglected by systemic governments?
I think but also, that's true, but at the same time, my brother, and by this, good I say on the record that I support fully the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. You cannot resolve an historical injustice by creating a new one. I mean, for me, I come from Kiambu County. and Abdi have been visiting this place. First and foremost, it's good to agree that it's actually cosmopolitan. It's not just a purely Kikuyu bastion. We have, people from many other communities. In fact, Kiambu County, about 30% of the inhabitants are from other communities. And so when you're talking about Kiambu, we are not just talking about Kikuyus. So there, the services are few. I mean, people don't get, they have the hospital, it could be 1 or 2 kilometers from where they are. But when they go there, they don't get medicine. The roads are dilapidated. So you are denying people services by saying we are trying to cure marginalization. And then when you say this formula is about purely population, it's not true. Why? If you look at Turkana, if you were to go purely on population, it will get 6 billion. It's getting 10 billion. That is to mean you have 4 more billion, headroom to deal with marginalization. If you look at Makueni, if you went purely on population, they would not get 254 million extra they are getting. If you look at even Mandera, there is an extra 2.3 billion that is coming in there. So let us disabuse the notion that much as this has been hyped as 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, that this formula is purely on population. It is not. There are other
but that is the driving factor of this formula.
And not necessarily, Abdi. Not necessarily. The issue here is you have to look at all the parameters. For example, when you allocate more to roads, then you are trying to give more counties that do not have road networks money. You see, when you allocate more money to agriculture, you are acceding to the fact that agriculture is the backbone of this economy. And agriculture includes even actual the tilling of the land and growing of crops, cash crops included, and also livestock. It's part of agriculture. So we need just to agree that there was a problem with the current second generation formula that disproportionately gave monies to counties. And such counties, in fact, we as senators must agree, much as we are fighting here, we need to strengthen oversight because our governors are also stealing money, and this money is ending up back in Nairobi. You remember the case of Samburu, Governor Kulal and misappropriation of 2 billion shillings. And that money was, traced to assets in Lavington and other places. Remember the case of Waitito, who is just from here in Kiambu, and the assets were traced at the CBD. So we also don't just need to have a conversation around giving money, Abdi. We need to also see how do we strengthen oversight.
Senator, when you have counties like Wajir, Mandera losing to the tune of 1.9, 1.8 billion, 1.6 billion shillings, these are billions of shillings that we are talking of. These are budgets that the counties say they have drafted and they are waiting for the finances. This will be a dent to those counties at a face value, wouldn't it not be?
I think we are also dealing with some level of dishonesty because I was the vice chairman of Finance and Budget Committee of Senate when Senator for Mandera, Engineer Mahmoud, was my chair, and we worked very well for that matter. But then we deferred on making this decision for a whole year. Remember, this was supposed to come in the year 2018, actually. That's when we should have made this decision. And for us to even come to this standstill, it was because we wanted to do county allocation revenue bill, and it was stopped, on the floor of the House because senators complained that we had not made a decision. Now, counties knew all along that they were supposed to budget with some reduced income. But then what happens is that we are also having an over-reliance on this equitable share. And even the current formula, I must confess, Abdi, does not give a very clear incentive to counties to collect more. So this is the problem we are having. But going forward, the proposed amendment by Senator Kangata suggests that we postpone this effect to July of 2022. That would mean that people will have enough time to adjust. But then, even then, you see, the senators have refused. Yet that would actually occasion a loss, for example, from the Mount Kenya region of 28 billion collectively, compared to counties that you have mentioned that they could be seen to be losing. However, I must also hasten to say that when I was the acting chair of that committee, I had proposed a reduction of the increase and also a reduction of the loss so that you have more people at the center. But even that was rejected. I think senators must be bold enough to make a decision. We cannot keep on postponing this.
Senator, I understand we are extremely out of time. Nonetheless, one final question. What will it take then to solve this stalemate? In less than 30 seconds.
It calls for leadership and tolerance because after we've talked and said and spoken, we have one Kenya, one indivisible Kenya. We have to find a solution. This is episodic, and I'm sure finally we'll agree because we have to move together.
All right, nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, thank you for making time for us tonight here on TV47.
Most welcome.
All right, we're making sense of the formula. Of course, the back and forth in as far as the disagreements in the Senate are concerned. You, the viewer, as well, can be part of this discussion. The discussion continues. Text us, share with us your thoughts on 22047. You can call in on the number, but let's get to more news now. And the National Assembly is set to vote to amend the Parliamentary Pension Act of 2019 that will see MPs who served between 1984 and 2001 pocket a monthly pension of 100,000 shillings. The House will also set to vote to remove a requirement that only those who served for 2 terms will enjoy a lifetime pension.
National Assembly Wednesday 6 to have 345 former members of parliament who served between the year 1984 and 2001 to receive 100,000 Kenya shillings monthly pension, up from the current 33,000 Kenya shillings. According to the Pensions Act, MPs who served for 2 terms within the 17 years will receive an increment of their monthly pension. This means that an additional 80 members of parliament who are excluded from pension will also receive the payout up to 125,000 shillings. Out of 290 members of parliament, 130 have already died, meaning their families will have to benefit from the money. Last year, the Office of the Parliamentary Budget noted that all the 290 MPs will receive a total of up to 1.7 billion shillings. Parliamentary Budget Office has estimated that if the bill is enacted into law, 15 million will be used to sustain the MPs. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Kangari residents in Murang'a County are complaining of what they termed as discrimination during the hiring of workers who are constructing the ongoing Mau Mau Road. The residents say the constructors were hiring people from other regions and foregoing workers from that town. The residents are now complaining and calling on the government to intervene. They were addressing Transport CS James Masharia, who was inspecting the ongoing construction.
Tujue ya kwamba ni kwa nini mtu anaweza kutoka mahali ametoka na anakuja na watu wake wa kazi. Ukija na watu wako wa kazi, kuja na professionals only. Au wengine chukua vijana wa hapa, ndio hata kama hizi boga unaharibu, mtoto naye anapeleka mtu buga nyumbani. Kuhusu kuitwa sisi Kikuyu wezi, tungetaka kuambia mwenye anatumia hiyo language na tunamuomba kwa heshima na unyenyekevu asitumie hiyo language anymore. Sisi sio wezi.
Fly kufika hapa leo kwa sababu hii mradi ni muhimu sana. Kama tulisema hapo beleni, hii mradi inaunganisha kule pade ya Limuru ikafika mpaka kule Nyeri. Ilikuwa inatumiwa na Mau Mau freedom fighters. Made sure there is capacity to make sure that we connect the entire region all the way from Limuru coming through Murang'a all the way to Nyeri in the other side of the mountain.
Now listen to this. A 24-year-old man from Kiambu County has shocked locals after he volunteered to build a 4-kilometer feeder road. He built the road in what he says is a way of thanking the residents who helped him raise money for his sister's school fees.
Samuel Karanja, the 7th child in a family of 8, has shocked locals from his village after taking the responsibility of repairing a public feeder road that connects Ngarariga village to the main road that is under construction. According to Karanja, he decided to help the community in building the road after the villagers helped his family raise school fees for his sisters.
Nikitengeneza hii barabara nikajitolea sababu ya wale walikuja kufanya harambee kwetu. Kuwarudishia shukrani sababu ya uzuri walio nayo kujitolea kuja harambee ya twin sisters zangu wakienda shule. Tulikuwa tumekosa pesa ya kupeleka shule. Sasa watu walijitolea na mimi nikasema wakiendelea kusoma huko na mimi nitengeneze barabara kurudisha shukrani.
The move has been received well by the locals, thus calling upon both the national and county governments to intervene and support Samuel Karanja in his quest for employment.
Kona watu walimsaidia wa kijiji huyu ya harambee ya mtoto yake au sister yake ya kwenda shule. Kana kile kitu anaweza saidia watu wa kijiji kutengeneza barabara, kwa sababu hii barabara inasaidia watu wa kijiji sana sana.
County government ikuje tutengenezee hii barabara na Samia apewe kazi, kwa sababu ni kijana amejitolea sana.
However, Karanja calls upon the government to take responsibility in improving local roads, thus urging the government to involve the youth as one way of providing employment opportunities for the youth.
Nikiomba serikali iangalie mambo na barabara. Sababu barabara zimekuwa vibaya kabisa. Na wachukue vijana, hata vijana waache kukaa hivyo, wapate kazi.
Karanja used a hoe, a spade and a farm machete to improve the road. Reporting for TV47, I am Muhammad Ali.
Indeed, 4-kilometer road of gratitude, and often the roads of gratitude lead the farthest. Elsewhere, Trans Nzoia County Commissioner Samuel Juanga has promised that the youth undertaking the Kazi Mtaani initiative that they will get their payments. These and other stories from the counties. Here is our counties roundup.
Trans Nzoia County Commissioner has assured youths involved in the Kazi Mtaani initiative of their salaries. The commissioner said the inconsistency in the details given by those involved caused the delays in the processing of salaries.
Ilitokea kwamba mtu amepeana ID number ambao ni ya mzazi wake. So ukienda kwa data ya Safaricom, hiyo ID number inasoma mtu mwingine. So Trans Nzoia County na a few counties kumetokea shida hizo information.
In Kiambu County, women who had been hired under the county government of Kiambu to collect rent from slaughterhouses and illegal brewers are complaining of not getting their salaries from the county government for an year. The women expressed their devastations over the lack of payment that has left most of them in misery.
Nafanya kazi enforcement na tuna miezi 8 hatujalipwa. Manyumba zimefungwa. Stima hata kwangu nimefungiwa stima. Landlord wangu anakuja kila wakati anataka pesa yake.
Finally, in Nakuru County, residents of Gilgil have demonstrated over poor road network in the town. The residents took to the streets over the devastating condition of roads in the area, which has led to job losses in the area.
Nimeshangaa hata sio mwaka moja mbili, hii barabara kutoka Maskao kuja hapa Mnanda. Tunashindwa inategemea nani? Sio kansula, sio MP. Tunashindwa ni nani? Hakuna wakati inalimwa, makarabati hatuwekewi.
Immaculate Oma, TV47.
Elsewhere, tea farmers in Nandi County have held a protest to demand better prices for their produce at the market. The farmers have criticized a decision by several companies to reduce prices from 30 shillings down to 19 shillings.
Tumekuja kama wakulima kutai haki yetu ya kwamba bei ambayo wameshukisha kuwa shilingi 19 kuanzia shilingi 30 tunaikataa kata. Tunasema hivi kwa sababu tuko na uchungu.
Likuja hapa na kutake advantage ya wakulima ambao labda wengine hata hawajasoma na kuleta agreement. Unapata agreement ni pages mingi. Katika sheria ya contract, saa ile mkulima anasign ama mtu yoyote, lazima uweke kwa lugha zote mpaka mkulima anaelewa ile kitu anasign. Lakini hao saa zingine hata wanangoa.
Now, a section of lawmakers from Murang'a and Kiambu counties have promised to help resolve the DELMONTE land tussle. The MPs who visited the land today said the investor should not be denied the renewal of the lease, claiming that more than 6,000 jobs are at risk. They further said that the economies at Kenol, Thika and Gatanga are highly dependent on the growth of the company. The management of the company has been trying to get a land lease renewal for years now.
There was a survey that was ordered to be done on this land in February 2019. Again, 1.5 years down the line, this has not happened. And the question is, how would you know even the land that DELMONTE are sitting on if there is no survey? So today's meeting was to emphasize on when the survey needs to be done.
Mwaka wa 2012 DELMONTE waliapply kwa serikali ili hii lease yao ya land iwe renewed kwa sababu inaisha 2022. Na kutoka wakati huo hawajapata renewal ya lease ya shamba yao. Kwa hivyo kwa watu wa Kiambu na wa Murang'a wanasaidika sana na hii kampuni ya DELMONTE. Na tunashindwa ni kwa nini kumekuwa ngumu namna hiyo. Ichukue zaidi ya miaka 8 kwa hii lease ya shamba kuwa renewed.
Na tusiporenew lease tunaweza kuwa na shida sana. Maana ukiangalia kama uchumi wa Thika Town, tukiangalia uchumi wa Keno, tukiangalia uchumi wa Gatanga, kuna wafanyabiashara wengi sana wanafanya kazi na hii kampani ya biashara. Na wanashikilia wafanyabiashara wengi na wametuajiria watu wengi.
Na vile vile mnajua Uhuru Kenyatta ameenda nchi karibu zote duniani akitafuta watu wakuja kuegeza hapa kwetu. Na kabla hajaleta wengine ni vizuri tukaiga vizuri wale tayari wako hapa nchini na wanaendelea kufanya kazi na kujaribu kuinua economy ya Kenya pande hii ya Kiambu County na Murang'a.
Actually DELMONTE for local and foreign, it has got a turnover of 10 billion shillings, of which around 20% comes from local and 80% comes from foreign.
Let's get to some international news. And the government of Rwanda says it is ready to facilitate any refugee who wishes to voluntarily repatriate in the wake of reports that Burundian refugees currently living in the country have requested for talks between governments of both countries to help them return home. Our reporter Diana Iriza from Kigali, Rwanda, has more.
Now, the Rwandan Ministry of Emergency Management says that Rwanda, a country that hosts a number of 150,000 refugees from Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, is willing to facilitate the return of these refugees back to their countries of origin. The government position came following a letter signed by about 311 refugees addressed to the president of Burundi, requesting his government to engage with the government of Rwanda and relevant organizations to facilitate them to return home.
It's a letter that was addressed to Burundian authorities, not directly to UNHCR in Rwanda, but yes, we are informed of that letter, and a meeting is taking place today between UNHCR and Burundian authorities regarding this letter, this request, and also the conditions to support the return and reintegration of these people. Well, actually, last year, all the year, we could witness about 200 spontaneous returns per month. So people who wish to go back to their country could go back. I mean, it was happening already, but it was more spontaneous returns because there is no tripartite agreement between Rwanda, Burundi, and UNHCR to facilitate an organized voluntary repatriation program.
However, not all the Burundian refugees in Rwanda, which are about 72,000, have expressed willingness to return, with one section saying that the conditions are not yet convincing, despite the country's new president, Major General Evariste Ndayishimiye, declaring upon taking office in June that doors were open for refugees to freely return. Majority of the refugees fled the country following the political crisis that gripped Burundi in 2015, when the president-elect Pierre Nkurunziza decided to seek a third term, leading the two-country protests as people opposed the move. Armed forces cracked down on demonstrators, unleashing brutal force against those who opposed President Nkurunziza's extended rule, leading to close to 500,000 people fleeing to neighboring countries. In their letter, the refugees say that there is hope for security under President Ndayishimiye's rule, following his promise that there will not be any revenge exerted upon political opponents, though some who are opposed to the return say that the conditions didn't change much despite the new government. According to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, there are more than 430,000 Burundian refugees scattered across the region. in Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Diana Iriza, Kigali, Rwanda.
On behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now, but I leave you with the weather updates. We value your feedback, welcome any comments, queries or complaints regarding our programming content.